Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi urges his supporters to bear attacks they receive as sacrifice for new Nigeria. Former Nasarawa State Deputy Governor regains freedom 4 days after he was kidnapped. And in Adamawa State, police kill suspected kidnapper and rescue 2 victims in Tango local government area. On the foreign scene, at least 5 people killed in mass shooting in Louisville, Kentucky, United States. Good evening. This is News at 7 on Western Spring Television. My name is Tunde Ido. Presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, says his supporters should bear the attacks they receive as a sacrifice for a new Nigeria. In a series of tweets today, Mr. Obi said he and his running mate, Daiti Baba Ahmed, are pained that their supporters, popularly known as Obedient, are being attacked because they chose to stand by him. The former governor of Anambra said the alleged plot to demarcate the Obedient movement will fail. Mr. Obi said he and Mr. Baba Ahmed are using all lawful and peaceful means to reclaim their mandate to create a new Nigeria. Vice Chairman of the All Progressive Congress APC in the Northwest, Saliu Lukman, says any Muslim aspiring to be Senate President does not respect the constitution of the party. Mr. Lukman made the remark on the ground that President-elect Bola Tinubu and Vice President-elect Kashim Shettima are both Muslims. The APC National Working Committee member said any attempt to elect a Muslim as Senate President will promote the dominance of Muslim in federal government. Mr. Lukman said such a development will be injurious to national unity. He said it is embarrassing that some of those aspiring to be leaders in the legislature are going about it unethically. And to security matters, the former deputy governor of Nasarawa State, Professor Onje Guaiwado, has been released 4 days after he was kidnapped. Gunmen had kidnapped Professor Guaiwado in Rinza village, Wamba local government area of the state last Thursday, and his abductors demanded 70 million naira for his release. Police Public Relations Officer in the state, DSP Rahman Nasil, confirmed his release today. The police spokesperson, however, said he is not aware if a ransom was paid before the former deputy governor was freed. He said Professor Guaiwado was set free following the search and rescue operation of the police. In the meantime, the Adamawa State Police Command, in collaboration with hunters, have killed a suspected kidnapper and rescued 2 victims in the Tango local government area of the state. Police spokesman Sulaiman Unguroje stated this in Yola today that it was one of the successes of the police collaborative strategies to end kidnapping, robbery, cattle rustling, and unlawful possession of firearms. He added that the 2 victims, Sulaiman Abdullah and Ruwa Buba, were rescued unhurt. He stated that the Commissioner of Police in Adamawa, Afolabi Babatola, commended operatives and the hunters for their gallantry. Meanwhile, in Zamfara State, the Commissioner of Police, Kolo Yusuf, has commended the resilience of the joint police and military deployed to neutralize bandits' attack and other criminal elements in the state. Mr. Yusuf, in a statement by the Police Public Relations Officer, CSP Mohammed Shehu, also called on the public to improve and sustain their partnership with the security agencies in an effort to restore lasting peace and security in the state. The police commissioner said this following the feat recorded during a fierce confrontation with suspected bandits in a community under Safe local government area, where an attempted banditry attack on the community was repelled and 2 suspected bandits neutralized, while others fled with possible gunshot wounds. He reassured the public of improved and sustained police commitment in the ongoing campaign against the resurgence of banditry activities in the state. Mr. Yusuf tasked members of the communities on effective collaboration with all the security agencies in the state in order to continue to succeed in their operations across the state. Bishop of Ondo Diocese of the Catholic, Jude Arugundade, has called on the federal government to spare no expense in bringing to book perpetrators of last year's massacre at the St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church, Owo, Ondo State. Bishop Arugundade gave the charge during his Easter message as the church reopened for Mass 10 months after the deadly attack. Emmanuel Ujuadegele has the rest of the story.
On the 5th of June 2022, the St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church in Owo, Ondo State was thrown into disarray. During Sunday Mass, some gunmen attacked the church and killed several persons, injuring others. The death toll from that attack was officially put at 40. In the aftermath of that attack, which left several others in the hospital, Interior Minister Rauf Aregbesola hinted that members of the Islamic State West African province ISWAP were responsible for the attack.
We have been able to see the footprints of ISWAP in the horrendous attack.
Similarly, Chief of Defense Staff Lieutenant General Lucky Rabo also disclosed that 2 months later, some suspects had been apprehended in connection with the attack.
On the 1st of August 2022, the military, in a combined operations with the DSS, arrested 4 terrorists at Eika in Okehi local government area of Kogi State. One of the masterminds of the 5th June attack on the Catholic Church in Owo.
For 10 months, survivors of that attack as well as victims and their families waited on the government for help and succor. And on Easter Sunday, April 9th, 2023, the St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church in Owo, Ondo State, reopened for Mass. It began outside with Bishop of the Ondo Diocese of the Catholic Church, Jude Arugundade, blessing and consecrating the renovated building of the church.
To open this place of worship and to ask God for His mercy and forgiveness for those who have carried out the heinous attack that led to the death of 41 people. We rededicate and bless this church for the use of the people of God, knowing that we are to exist, to resist the work of the evil one.
While worshippers gathered and congregated inside the church, Bishop Arugundade called attention to the fact that the level of prosecution and arrest for those allegedly involved in the attack was not encouraging.
I do not know if anyone in this church have heard of anyone tried for all the crimes that has been going on in this country, that anyone has been sentenced.
He called on the federal government and relevant authorities to do their best to ensure that all the perpetrators are brought to book, as these may bring some sort of closure to victims and survivors of the attack.
The government must wake up and show strength and courage and make sure those who carried out the evil that took place in this church and those who are carrying out the evils that are going on around our country are brought to book.
While that mass shooting or massacre at the St. Francis Xavier Church in Owo was seen as one of the deadliest attacks in the southwest, it remains to be seen how the government aims to ensure that all involved in that attack are apprehended and brought to book. Many believe that this will serve as deterrent to those who intend to perpetrate such attacks, while others believe that it will also help victims and survivors restore their confidence in the ability of the government to protect them and their lives and property. Emmanuel Ujuadegele, Western Spring Television News.
The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, Kano State Command, said it secured the conviction of 37 drug peddlers and users between January and March. The state commander of the agency, Abubakar Idris Ahmed, revealed this to the news agency of Nigeria in Kano. Mr. Idris Ahmed said the command arrested 352 suspects within the period. He said apart from the 37 convicted by the Federal High Court, the command had filed 39 fresh cases, while 127 other cases were pending. He said between January to March, 955.3 kilograms of cannabis sativa, 1,225.05 kilograms of codeine and tramadol, 25 grams of cocaine, 17 grams of heroin, and 52 grams of methamphetamine were confiscated. You're watching News at 7 on Western Spring Television. Still to come. At least 5 people killed in mass shooting in Louisville, Kentucky, United States. We'll bring you more on this when we return.
Prince Royal was born 6th of December 1910 at Raba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Danfodio, a religious and social reformer who brought the Habib dynasty under the Fulani Caliphate in the beginning of the 19th century. Ahmadu Bello raised the bar of political consciousness and participation when, in 1944, he engineered the establishment of the Northern People's Congress (NPC) as the first political party in northern Nigeria and the rallying point for politicians in the region before independence. History will not forget Ahmadu Bello for his charisma and political sagacity, which provided easy passage for his kinsmen to assume political and administrative positions in Nigeria's post-independence era. The distinguished elder statesman and Sardauna of Sokoto has his face on his country's 200 naira currency as a mark of honor to one of the architects of Nigeria's independence. Western Spring Television identifies Ahmadu Bello as a watershed character in history. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was an anti-apartheid activist who gave his all for the elimination of what has been described as the world's most vicious rule of the unjust and man's inhumanity against man. He was born July 18, 1918 in Mvezo, South Africa. Educated and trained as a successful legal practitioner, he took up the gauntlet of a human activist against segregation by the minority white suprematists in South Africa. At the climax of his trial for treason, orchestrated by the minority South African government, the great crusader for democratic equality was prepared to pay the supreme sacrifice to establish majority rule in his native land. He told white jurists that if achieving freedom for his people was worth his life, he was prepared to die. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in Robben Island, described as the most notorious prison in the world. It was from this same prison that he came out as a free man to assume office as South Africa's first black president in 1994. Western Spring Television identifies Nelson Mandela as a watershed character in history. The British Empire was the largest and the most powerful in the world. At its zenith, the empire embraced a quarter of the earth's land surface and imposed her imperial majesty's rule on more than 458 million peoples across nations and continents. The empire took off with overseas possessions and trading posts established by England, spread over 3 million kilometers between 16th and early 18th century. Like previous empires, the British Empire began to crumble on its weight of overstretched territories and growing unrest in our various colonies. Today, the British Empire no longer exists. What is in place is the Commonwealth of Nations, a loose association of sovereign states which recognize the King of England as the titular head. Western Spring Television identifies the British Empire as a watershed empire in history. Born Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1905, Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. erudite politician, thinker, and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business and the premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi Awolowo's premiership witnessed pioneering in multi-sectoral policy initiatives and execution. The Western region under his administration paraded several enviable records. First television station in Africa, first real estate in Nigeria, first high-rise building in Nigeria, first modern sports stadium in Nigeria, first agricultural settlement in Nigeria, first modern civil service secretariat in Nigeria, and first industrial estate in Nigeria. His face is on 100 naira denomination as a mark of honor for his distinguished services to his country. Western Spring Television identifies Obafemi Awolowo as a major character in history.
Welcome back. This is still News at 7 on Western Spring Television. A reminder of our headlines. Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi urges his supporters to be attacks they receive as sacrifice for new Nigeria. Former Nasarawa State Deputy Governor regains freedom 4 days after he was kidnapped. And in Adamawa State, police kill suspected kidnapper and rescue 2 victims in Tongo local government area. On the foreign scene, at least 5 people killed in mass shooting in Louisville, Kentucky, United States. And Niger national leader and convener of the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, PANDEF, Edwin Clark, says Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, should be prosecuted for spreading fake news against presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi. On April 4th, while speaking in Washington, D.C. during an engagement with some international media organizations, Mr. Mohammed warned Mr. Obi and his running mate Dati Baba Ahmed against inciting violence over the outcome of the election. Reacting to this in a statement today, Chief Clark said the Minister of Information misused the office to commit an illegitimate act. He called on the Attorney General of the nation to undertake thorough investigation of the activities of Mr. Mohammed and charge him to court for constituting himself as mastermind and disseminator of fake news. The Ijaw national leader added that the discovery of a plot of an interim government aimed at overthrowing the federal government was malicious and untrue. In Anambra State, Governor Chukwuma Soludo has tasked the newly inaugurated members of the State Internal Revenue Service to increase the state's internally generated revenue, describing the agency as the lifeblood of every government. Governor Soludo disclosed this today during the inauguration of members of the board at the Governor's Lodge, Amawiba. The governor reminded them that the state has yet to start generating up to 3 billion naira a month on IGL, and that an over 180% turnaround on the state revenue is required as the 2023 budget depends on it. In like manner, the board of Anambra State Housing Development Corporation were inaugurated with a charge to bring about a positive disruptive change in the sector and bridge the gap of millions of housing deficits in the state. The board, chaired by former Deputy Governor of Anambra, Emeka Sibeudu, was also mandated to develop housing structures that will suit the desires of the people.
Evaluation every 3 months. Every 3 months we're going to meet with this board. If it doesn't work, this is one board that might have high mortality rate. So this board has a life of the next 3 months. After 3 months, we'll review. If it doesn't work, we'll disband you and set up a new one. It has to. We must keep on until this thing works.
Ekiti State Governor Biodun Oyebanji has expressed concern over the resurgence of kidnapping and sundry criminalities in the state, calling on the local government, council development areas to synergize efforts with the state government and security agencies to fight the menace. Governor Oyebanji added that absence of security of lives and property in any community will adversely affect development and growth of such state area. The governor made the statement while playing host to the chairman and leadership of Ekiti West local government. He charged the chairman to collaborate with residents of the area and government at all levels to ensure an end to criminal activities in their area. The governor equally tasked the leadership of the local government to love and accommodate each other, assuring them that his administration is committed to the overall development of the state. And on the foreign scene, at least 5 people have been killed in a mass shooting in Louisville, Kentucky, United States. The Louisville Metro Police Department confirmed the incident. LMPD Deputy Chief Paul Humphrey disclosed that the shooter was confirmed to be dead on the scene, but the circumstances around his death is yet to be ascertained. Video from the scene showed officers and ambulances in the streets.
333 East Main Street at the Old National Bank. Shortly after, officers arrived on scene with Louisville Metro Fire and EMS, where they encountered active gunshots still being fired inside the location at that time. The shooter was confirmed to be dead on the scene. We do not know exactly the circumstances of his death at this time. 5 people have been confirmed to have been killed inside. At least 6 were transported to University of Louisville Hospital, including 1 officer with various injuries. We are unable to confirm the status of those who have been transported at this time. I will reiterate that this is an ongoing investigation. This information is preliminary, and it will be updated shortly. We ask that the public remain away from the scene. It will be an ongoing scene that will take a long time to investigate, but there is no active danger known to the public at this time.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden has indicated he plans to run for re-election in 2024, but was not prepared to announce it yet. Mr. Biden gave the hint in an interview with NBC's Today's Show before the White House Easter egg roll. Mr. Biden said he intends to be the Democratic candidate in 2024, but was not prepared to make a formal announcement yet. Both Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris have said they will run together.
Will you be taking part in the Easter egg rolls after 2024?
Well, I plan on at least 3 or 4 more Easter egg rolls.
At least 3 or 4 more?
Maybe 5.
Maybe 5?
maybe 6. What the hell?
Are you saying that you would be taking part in our upcoming election in 2024?
Well, I'll either roll an egg or being the guy who's pushing them out.
Come on, help a brother out. Make some news for me.
I plan on running out, but we're not prepared to announce it yet.
All right.
And in Europe, Ukraine's first deputy foreign minister, Emi Zaparova, has arrived in India for a 4-day visit, the first by a Ukrainian government minister since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February last year. Ms. Zaparova is expected to hold talks with officials from India's Ministry of External Affairs, including Menakesh Lekhi, the Minister of State for External Affairs and Culture. She is expected to meet with delegates from the Ministry of External Affairs to discuss the current situation in Ukraine and global issues of mutual interest. India's Hindu newspaper reported that Ms. Zaparova will call on India to send a strong message for peace to Russian President Vladimir Putin, who is expected to visit India in July for a Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit.
Existence of my country. Within our history of 1,500 years, Ukraine never attacked any other country like your country. We never had this imperialistic and chauvinistic attitudes towards our neighbors. So I think for us it's crucial that we are the victim of the war, of unprovoked war, of the neo-colonial war. So we also feel that we have this arbitrary by promoting these values of justice, of peace, as your Prime Minister in Samarkand said, that it's not an era of war. I mean, we do support this purely and fully, but unfortunately we have aggressive countries who question the existence of other countries, and then the question of India's involvement as a leader in the global south, as a G20 presidency. I think that we hope that India would be involved and engaged into global issues and challenges, economic challenges, energy challenges, nuclear challenges to a greater extent, because the Ukrainian issue is a litmus paper today.
China said it was simulating sealing off Taiwan in the third day of drills as it appeared to use an aircraft carrier to launch jets towards the island. Taiwan said it had detected jets to its east, while China said its Shandong aircraft carrier had taken part. Beijing began the exercises on Saturday after Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen met the U.S. House Speaker in California. This report examines the tension in the strait as the Taiwanese military puts its armed forces on high alert.
Said it was simulating sealing off Taiwan in a third day of drills as it appeared to use an aircraft carrier to launch jets towards the island. China announced the 3 days of drills on Saturday after Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen returned to Taipei following a meeting in Los Angeles with U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Taiwan's Defense Ministry published a map on Monday of the previous 24 hours of Chinese Air Force activities, showing 4 carrier-based Chinese J-15 fighters operating over the Pacific Ocean to Taiwan's east. Democratically governed Taiwan is viewed by China as its own territory and has never renounced the use of force to bring the island under Beijing's control. Taiwan's government strongly disputes China's claims and has denounced the drills. Chinese state television said aircraft including nuclear-capable H-6 bombers armed with live missiles and warships staged drills to form a multi-directional island-encompassing blockade situation. The 3-day operation, dubbed Joint Sword, is intended to rehearse an encirclement of Taiwan, which Beijing claims as its territory and has threatened to take by force if necessary. The Eastern Theater Command of the People's Liberation Army said the aircraft carrier, the Shandong, also took part in combat patrols and showed fighters taking off from its deck. Taiwan has been tracking the Shandong since last week in the Pacific Ocean. The ministry said as of mid-morning on Monday that it had spotted 59 military aircraft and 11 ships around Taiwan, and that the Shandong carrier group was drilling in the Western Pacific. Washington had repeatedly called for China to exercise restraint following President Tsai's meeting with Kevin McCarthy, the third most senior U.S. government figure.
Our goal is that hypothetical never comes to fruition. And what we know through history, the best way to do that is supply the weapons that allow people to deter war. Supply the weapons that people could defend themselves. It is a critical lesson that we learned through Ukraine.
Meanwhile, Beijing had warned the U.S. and Taiwan of resolute countermeasures if Ms. Tsai met Mr. McCarthy. China announced the drills after top foreign leaders it was hosting, including French President Emmanuel Macron and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen.
China firmly opposes the U.S.'s arrangement for Tsai Ing-wen's transit trip to the U.S. and any meeting between her and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, the third highest-ranking official of the U.S. government, because it seriously contravenes the One China principle and provisions in the Three China-U.S. Joint Communique and gravely undermines China's sovereignty and territorial integrity. We urge the U.S. to abide by the One China principle and provisions in the Three China-U.S. Joint Communique, not to allow Tsai Ing-wen's transit trip to the U.S., not to arrange for any meeting or contact between Tsai and U.S. political figures and officials. The Chinese side will closely monitor the situation as it develops and resolutely defend our sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Temitope Ajijola Oluwaola, Western Spring Television.
And in the United Kingdom, NHS Confederation Chief Executive Matthew Tiller has called on the UK government and Junior Doctors Union to call on the Conciliation Service for help with talks ahead of extremely worrying strikes this week. The NHS chief made the call in an interview, stating that potentially up to 350,000 appointments and operations could be cancelled due to the strike. Mr. Taylor said the government and unions needed to call in independent public body actors to help advance talks. Junior doctors in England are set to stage a 4-day strike as from tomorrow. While the British Medical Association wants a 35% pay rise, the UK Health Secretary Steve Barclay on Saturday said the demand was unrealistic.
Not only is the action longer, it's 4 days, but it's sandwiched between the Easter bank holiday weekend and another weekend It's a time where many people will have consultants on a booked holiday. We have Ramadan, we have Passover as well. So this, in a sense, is a perfect storm in terms of the capacity of the health service. So we're hearing the potential now of 350,000 cancelled appointments and operations, and that'll make a huge impact on our capacity to recover services. See, what the health service is always trying to do is to achieve two things: to meet the demand which presents itself at all points of the health service, GP surgeries, A&E or whatever, at the same time as making inroads into those waiting lists that have built up before COVID and of course got much, much longer during the COVID period. And it's tough to meet that demand and make inroads into the backlog at the best of times. It's impossible to do it when a strike is taking place.
And still ahead, total pension fund assets increased from 13.76 trillion naira to 15.45 trillion naira in 1 year. We have more on this and other business stories after this break. Please stay with us.
The history of guns is traced to China. The Chinese had developed a technology civilization that produced devices identified as guns at about 1000 AD. By the end of the 13th century, the devices had become true guns and described as metal barrel firearms that fired single projectiles which occluded the barrel. When did gun become an instrument of war? The first battles to be decided by firearms were between French and Spanish soldiers. The early 16th century warfare included Magnano in 1515, Bicocca in 1522, and Pavia in 1525. The wars were fought in Italy. The gun is a weapon of destruction and death, but humanity sees it as a potent instrument of family destruction. People with guns feel safer even if they don't display it. Western Spring Television identifies history of guns as a watershed event in history. Born 16th September 1923, named Harry Lee Kuan and known as Lee Kuan Yew, he was often addressed by his initials of LKY. Lee Kuan Yew was a barrister and the first Prime Minister of Singapore between 1959 and 1990. Educated at Raffles Institution from 1936 to 1940 and the Fitzwilliam House between 1947 and 1949, Lee Kuan Yew established a highly effective and anti-corrupt governance system that midwives the transformation of Singapore into a high net worth income economy within a generation. He never hid his exception to Western mode democratic ideal, which he believed had not assisted developing nations to attain good government. Before his death on 23rd March 2015, the People's Action Party, which he founded, had used its political influence to establish the United World College of Southeast Asia to expand his economic ideas among countries that constitute the Asian Tiger. Western Spring Television identifies Lee Kuan Yew as a major character in history. The name Adolf Hitler exudes a gale of bile from millions of people who were victims of his autocratic rule and love, from fanatical supporters of his imperial aggression. Born April 20, 1889, at a small Austrian town sandwiched between Austro-German frontier, Adolf Hitler spent most of his childhood in Linz, the capital of Upper Austria. As a very prominent stakeholder in the horrific events of conflicts in Europe, Adolf Hitler could simply go off as the sole mover of the Second World War. 40 million Jews were murdered in the gas chambers of various Nazi camps on the orders of Adolf Hitler. Thousands of Adolf Hitlers still live in Germany today, but the majority of them are elderly and were named before the end of the Second World War. As the name pales into vanishing rarity, 13 children, according to official records, were named Adolf Hitler between 2006 and 2013. Western Spring Television identifies Adolf Hitler as a major character in history. The Berlin Conference of 1884 defined the configuration of Africa, which hitherto existed as a continent of multiple kingdoms and empires under native rulers. The conference, otherwise referred to as Congo Conference, regulated European colonization and trade in Africa as initiated by German leader Otto von Bismarck. The Berlin Conference is often called the scramble for and partitioning of Africa, as each of the imperial powers carved separate portions of the continent for themselves without recourse to racial and cultural identities and differences. 137 years after the Berlin Conference was held, Africa remains a legitimized playground for European nations that sought to exploit its wealth and resources and manipulate its human capital to promote trades and investments of Western powers. Western Spring Television identifies the Berlin Conference as a major event in history.
You're welcome back. Now to business news. The National Pension Commission says total pension fund assets increased from 13.76 trillion naira to 15.45 trillion naira in 1 year. According to the Commission's unaudited report on the pension fund industry portfolio, the figure represents an increase of 1.68 trillion naira from February 2022 to February 2023. The report provided information on the approved existing schemes, closed pension fund administrators, and retirement savings accounts fund, including unremitted contributions at the Central Bank of Nigeria and legacy funds. The Commission's report showed that 9.98 trillion naira, or 64.4% of the total funds, were invested in federal government securities comprising bonds and treasury bills. The Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority has warned operators of illegal petrol outlets in Rivers State to regularize their operations or face dire consequences. Regional Coordinator of NMDPR South-South, George Eneita, gave the warning in Port Harcourt while speaking with top executives in the petroleum sector. Mr. Eneita said the authority has also directed depots across the region to implement the no license, no lifting of petroleum product policy. He also announced the body's plan to restart the technical safety audit of the operations of petrol retail outlets and other activities. He said at least one death was recorded every 4 days in the course of product movement, with 412 fatalities in 244 accidents recorded between 2018 and the first quarter of 2023. Still in business, Egypt's annual urban consumer inflation rate in March climbed to 32.7% year-on-year, just shy of an all-time record from 31.9% in February. According to data from the country's statistics agency, CAPMAS, month-on-month urban inflation slowed to 2.7% in March from 6.5% in February and 4.7% in January. Egypt's surging inflation rate follows a series of currency devaluations starting in March 2022, a prolonged shortage of foreign currency, and continuing delays in getting imports into the country. Egypt, which secured a $3 billion financial support package from the International Monetary Fund in December, has devalued its currency by half since March 2022. Welcome to the world of sports. Super Falcons defender Ashley Plumtree has said the team is capable of causing a couple of upsets at the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand. The Super Falcons are in Group B alongside Canada, Australia, and the Republic of Ireland. Speaking in an interview posted on the Super Falcons Twitter handle, Plumtree said the team is in a really good position. Plumtree has made 9 appearances for the Super Falcons and made her first appearance at the 2022 Women's AFCON in Morocco. Randy Waldrum's side are currently in Turkey in continuation of their preparations for this year's tournament. The 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup will be held in Australia and New Zealand from July 20th to August 20th.
Yeah, Australia, crazy, yeah, that it will come up so soon, but I think right now we're just in a really good position, just preparing as we are here in Turkey. Obviously everybody's got their eyes set on the summer, but right now we're trying to just put little details into practice and make sure that come the summer that the team's ready to perform. Yeah, we know we're obviously against really good competition and we definitely can't look past that, but I think we're in the group, people look at us as an underdog, which I actually really like. The pressure is on the likes of Canada and Australia, but I know we have some amazing talent in this team, so we're definitely going to put in some fight and some good performances, and I think we can cause a couple of upsets.
And in Europe, Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting will play no part in Bayern Munich's Champions League quarter-final first leg match against Manchester City tomorrow due to a knee injury. The German club tweeted that Choupo-Moting cannot travel to Manchester. The 34-year-old Cameroonian international striker missed Saturday's 1-0 win over Freiburg due to the same injury and was replaced up front by Serge Gnabry. Choupo-Moting has scored 10 goals in the Bundesliga this term for the defending champions and 3 in the Champions League. Assistant referee Konstantin Hatzidakis will not be involved in any matches while the Football Association investigates an incident in which he appeared to elbow Liverpool defender Andy Robertson. Hatzidakis made contact with Robertson's chin after the Scotland international approached him at the end of the first half in Sunday's 2-2 Premier League draw with Arsenal. An angry Robertson and several teammates approached referee Paul Tierney, who booked Robertson. Refereeing body PGMOL said it will not be appointing Konstantin Hatzidakis to fixtures in any of the competition during the FA investigation. The Professional Game Match Officials Limited said it will review the matter in full. And away from sports, the new Super Mario Bros. Movie has broken box office records, scoring the most successful global opening of all time for an animated film. The family film took $377 million around the world in its first 5 days of release. That overtook the previous record of $358 million held by Frozen 2. The movie is based on the world of Nintendo's classic 1985 Super Mario video games and stars Chris Pratt as Mario, Charlie Day as Luigi, and Anya Taylor-Joy as Princess Peach.
Where am I?
Ooh, fresh meat for the grinder.
Pay him no heed. He is cute, but he is.
There's got to be a way out of here.
There's no escape. The only hope is the sweet relief of death.
Whoa! Oh, you've got to be kidding me! My army! Koopas! Koopas! Whatever those things are! Aww. We will destroy the Mushroom Kingdom!
Bowser is coming.
I'm not afraid. I'll do anything for my brother.
We're going to save him.
Yes! Fire!
You asked for it. This is fun!
Here we go!
Attack! Let's end this.
must watch. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, here is a recap of our major stories. Presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, says his supporters should bear the attacks they receive as a sacrifice for a new Nigeria. The former Deputy Governor of Nasarawa State, Professor Onjegye Wado, has been released 4 days after he was kidnapped. The Adamawa State Police Command, in collaboration with hunters, have killed a suspected kidnapper and rescued 2 victims in the Tango local government area of the state. And on the foreign scene, at least 5 people have been killed in a mass shooting in Louisville, Kentucky, United States. Please do follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. I am Tunde Ido. Good evening.